I have 4 questions that were decided by our executive board for our candidates, and they've all been given the questions in advance, along with the time allotment for their answers. We will not be taking questions from the audience due to time constraints, but each of the candidates can answer questions individually after our meeting. I've talked to them all, they're wonderful, and they are more than happy to talk to all of us. I'm also not going to go into a more detailed introduction, and the reason will become evident based on the first question I ask. And I'm going to sit also. So our first question, welcome, thank you so much, all 3 of you, for coming. This crowd is filled with experienced canvassers. We usually have 2 minutes at the door before we lose someone's attention. What should we say about you and why you should be our CD6 U.S. House Representative in 2 minutes or less?
Well, first of all, I want to thank LD28. Thank the board for doing this today. Thank Carol and Stephanie for joining me on this journey. We really want Schweikert out. We're going to get him out this time, whoever is at this table. And 3 women in a time like today. This is what we need to watch in here, right? I'm eating into my time, I know. So, the 2 minutes at the door. I have been in the tech industry for now over 20 years. And with more than half of this country, of individuals and Americans, having their data compromised. With automation threatening what we see as our job market, with AI posing potential security risks that we haven't thought of, and with foreign actors out there attacking our democracy through cyber warfare. What we need so direly and so desperately in DC is tech leadership. Not tech leadership that will say, oh, there's a problem now, let's fix it. I'll work urgently on the existing problems, but we need to also look at being proactive. We've never done that. And my family recently experienced what so many families in our district and our country are going through. We had a catastrophic health event that could happen to anybody at any time. And now we have a mountain of medical debt. So this cycle, I am also putting my pain to purpose. I will fight harder than I did last time so that every family in this district can know that that idea of healthcare as a right shouldn't just be an idea. We're going to make it happen. I'm committed to that. I'm committed to saying no more surprise charges when you're in an in-network facility for out-of-network things. No more surprises. Permanent protections for pre-existing conditions. Those are my commitments. And what I approved in the last cycle and what we should say at the doors is this, that this district is ready for change. It doesn't matter what your party affiliation is, people came out in droves. And we closed the district, the gap that we've seen in this district for a very long time. Thank you.
Odd to answer this question sitting down because we're usually standing at the doors. So I feel like we need to be standing and saying this, but anyways, again, thank you to LD28 for hosting us. This is a great opportunity to hear from all of us, and thank you to Anita and Stephanie. It's going to be whoever replaces David Schweikert, we're in good hands. Look, at the door, it's about them, right? So I am coming from a place of service. My life has been about serving other people. As a physician in cancer research advocacy, as part of the Maricopa Health Foundation Board, it's been about helping others in times of crisis. It's been about really listening to people, being able to solve complex problems, and being able to do that without partisanship involved. And that is what people need in leadership in DC. A representative is supposed to represent us, and that is failing. That is not happening at all. Look, as a physician, on the very first day, you take an oath. And that oath is about doing no harm. It's about serving others. It's about putting people first. And David Schweikert has horribly failed us in that. The issues I'm fighting for, a lot of the same things that Anita mentioned. Healthcare, at the top of my list, because without your health, you have nothing. And I put together a very detailed plan of how we get to that goal of quality, affordable health care for every single American. That is not a pipe dream, that is doable, and we can get there. We need to make sure that we're addressing an economy so that it works for all of us, including our small businesses and our middle-class families. Make sure we strengthen the quality of education for our young people and pay teachers what they're worth, because we know that that's a collective investment we're making in our entire future. And none of this happens, though, without taking out the influence of money in our system. We have to take the influence of money out of politics, because nothing changes without doing that. And that is where David Schweikert has failed us the most. Because not only has he been on the wrong side of all of these issues, but he has shown a penchant for corruption. He is now under investigation by the House Ethics Committee for campaign finance violations. And he has betrayed that oath that he made to all of us when he took office. So it is incumbent upon us to make sure we bring a true public servant to that office so that they can represent us and not their special interests. And I look forward to doing that with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for having us here. Thank you for the question, and not to be redundant, but thank you also, Carol and Anita, for being part of this effort to take back CD6. As the architect of the strategic plan that is being used to guide responsible growth and development in the Northeast Valley, I know firsthand that the projects we have on the ground would benefit from the help of Congress to provide stakeholders with federal resources. I am capable of doing the work of our congressmen, and when you send me to Washington, I will be a voice for our community, advocate for our businesses, support democratic causes, and bring quality jobs to Arizona, developing and manufacturing the many innovative and new technologies that can help combat the climate crisis and solidify Arizona as a driving force in the global economy. But that's not all. Because like you, I believe leaders must embody the values we hold dear and embrace within our own Constitution. Members of my family have fought in every war since the American Revolution, been members of nearly every union, and lived in nearly every state. Regardless of which war they fought in, or what job they had, or where they lived, generation after generation, we have all been chartered with the same mission, to uphold and defend our American values. To me, that means a livable wage, affordable health care with coverage for pre-existing conditions and parity for mental and physical health, safe communities, clean air and water, and a climate that future generations can tolerate. Each generation has its fight. Right now, ours is to tackle the disparity between those who have and those who do not, and to restore dignity to government.
Thank you very much. Question 2. It's now June 2019, and our primary isn't until August of 2020. How do you plan to keep both your energy and the momentum going for this long?
Well, you know, in some ways it seems like a long time, and in other ways it seems like it's not enough. And that's because it's about the issues that the families in our communities face. And we will continue to have those conversations from now right through Election Day. That is our job. And let's face it, sometimes there's shifting family dynamics. There are different issues based on whatever our unpredictable current administration is doing. There's a shifting economic and social environment that we're all working in. So it's imperative that we continue to have that conversation throughout the year plus. And it's also important that we have that conversation with our constituents about restoring faith in government, because I think that's been lost. And we have to, it'll be my job to make sure I tell them that, look, if you elect me, I won't be working on platitudes and rhetoric. I'll be working based on facts, truth, and science. But look, we're so excited that you're already engaged. I mean, look at all of you. This is an amazing turnout, and this is only June. So we're looking to just deepen that engagement. We're going to continue to have events. We'll have coffees. I look forward to meeting you all, whether it's at the door or events around the community, talking to community leaders, hosting events, and just really having that continued dialogue, because that is where I get my energy. Having the stories that I carry with me from talking to folks all around the communities in every nook and cranny. Folks who are sharing their stories with us, and they come from all various backgrounds, different parties, and that's what gives me the energy, and it reminds us of the two most important things: who we're working for and what we're working towards. And look, you guys have all done incredible work. You guys have maintained your energy, and this is a typical job. It's a full-time job, and I'm giving it 110% every single day because it is that important. And I'm very fortunate that I have an incredible team around me, really good, smart people that are working very hard, and they're taking time away from their families so they continue to inspire me as well and motivate me. And I'm very fortunate that I have a wonderful family and friends who are always there for me whenever I have a bad day. My husband, my kids, our families. You know, they lift me up, they remind me why I'm doing this, and you get a hug and a couple of words of support and you're back out there again. So I'm excited about continuing the energy. I have no doubt that we'll keep it up. We have a lot of important work to do, and I'm committed to giving you 110% every single day. Our collective energy is fierce, and our momentum is strong and abiding. And I have the confidence that that will continue to grow and engage deeper, and I won't take that for granted for a second. And I know that together we can take all that energy forward, because remember, our real work starts after Election Day. Thank you.
Well, this question presumes that I started running the race recently, but I've always been running the race to promote our democratic values and ideals. It's like running a marathon. The training and commitment to enter the race is when it's hard to keep up your momentum. That's when you don't want to drag yourself out of bed and keep going. And even after entering the race, finishing the first 20 miles is much harder than the home stretch. Because even when you're tired, the home stretch has its own momentum. For me, this campaign for Congress is the home stretch. The actual race began in 2004, when none of us were morally prepared for the huge blow of the 2004 elections, when redistricting caused Republicans in Arizona to win by huge landslides. I know many people, including me, also felt this way in November of 2016. In 2004, I'd been working on campaigns in Arizona for 6 years. I knew the insiders. So after the election, I asked, well, what are we going to do and how can I help for 2006? Well, there wasn't a plan. And everyone was feeling the same way. Even people in this room that I know were feeling that exact same way. Except for the governor. Lucky lady, she'd done quite well. She had won in 2002, and she did win again in 2006. And she had some protected status. And that's what it was like right then in Arizona. We would win some, we would lose some, but there wasn't a plan. It was hard to get out of bed and keep going and to keep up the momentum, but we all did it. It was especially hard living in the Northeast Valley as Democrats. The insults to our faces, the closed doors, the animosity, even shock and awe from our neighbors when they would find out we were Democrats. It stung and hurt for a long time. Regardless, separately and collectively, all of us came together sometime between 2004 and 2006. And we started to build this machine that still exists today. And with our own plans for how we would continue to promote our democratic values against all odds and turn Arizona blue, we all slowly came together. That effort and my role in it is why I'm here and why Harry Mitchell is my campaign chair. Harry didn't know me then, and he may not have known many of you, but he listened and he understood. And when he heard how much we wanted to work and change the Northeast Valley, he not only understood our vision, but he joined it and was willing to be part of it day in and day out, enduring those insults right alongside us. So here we are now, 14 years later, and what was once an uncoordinated but directed effort has grown into a machine that had big wins in 2018 and will continue to have big wins in 2020. And when we win this seat in Congress, we will have also elected Mark Kelly to the U.S. Senate. We will send our electoral college votes to the Democratic presidential nominee, and LD28 will have won a state Senate seat. And I'm glad to be part of that with all of you.
there is anything that I have learned, it is that if you can run a congressional campaign with 2 little kids and go through 6 weeks of the general election with your husband fighting for his life in the hospital, and you can still swing a district that historically just hasn't had a chance, 14 points, you have the energy and the endurance somehow, by some gift of God, to do this. And the reason, what it really is the passion. Every day you get up because you're fighting for the issues. And when those issues matter to you, it doesn't matter. You find the energy within yourself. And the issues of last cycle are the same for me. We haven't made much progress. It is amazing to see what our House Democrats are doing, but we're still getting those roadblocks, right? And so the issues of gun safety, of keeping our kids safe, the issue of campaign finance reform, because without fixing that, we can't fix anything. The issues of education, both federally and here, of course, and healthcare, and the list goes on and on and on, and of course, climate change. That's what drives me. That's where my energy comes from. I know, as a family, we can do this. So then how do you do that with the voters? How do you keep that momentum? Like Lucy said, it's early. We have a long way to go. It will go quickly. But I think the challenge is, and what we often look at, is we look at a singular moment in time. We look at an election. The way I ran this campaign last time and the way I'll run it again is this is not about an election. This is about a movement. Movements grow. They change. They learn. And they bring people together for that common cause. Those stories that we all share with each other. They sustain. We created a movement in District 6, and we now will take that movement, and this is the part I geek out about, because I was a chief operating officer, and if you know what that role is about, it's process, it's goals. And so you take a movement and you put structure on it. If you can put structure on a movement to give it the ability to keep moving forward and grow efficiently, you can do this. You can sustain longer than next year. We will use that structure, we will use that movement we've created, and we will continue to move forward. We have over 700 volunteers now on our list. Those are people in this district that are ready right now to get going. And so we can say, we're going to be lean, we're going to be efficient, to go neighborhood by neighborhood, precinct by precinct. Not one corner of CD6 will be untouched, because we're here to represent everyone. We're here to hear those stories, bring those stories back in an efficient way, and then send that message back out to those neighbors of those people that are struggling. That's how you do this. You forget about the election date, and you talk to people, and you listen to people. Because we must never take for granted that people are coming out to vote for us. That is not what this is about. We show up, and we will never be guilty of not showing up for everybody in this district. Thank you.
Also keeping a long, expensive campaign in mind, how are you funding your campaign? And how is your fundraising going so far? And are you taking PAC money? And Stephanie, if you could begin.
Thank you. Okay. Well, I'm funding my campaign through donations. The fundraising is going well, and as anyone who's done it knows, it's work every single day. And yes, I will take PAC money. To not take PAC money would mean not to take money from the League of Conservation Voters or the Human Rights Campaign or even Giffords. And there are definitely PACs out there with whom I'm aligned that I pursue their support.
So to me, and I think a lot of us believe this, the biggest threat to our democracy is corporate money, is the money in politics. It is the biggest threat, it is the biggest obstacle that we see to any progress on any of the issues that we care about. So for that reason, I have never and I will never take corporate PAC money. And Team Anita, we had these debates many, many times last time, we take it a step further. That step is that even if an issues-based PAC seems great, a PAC, excuse me, seems great on the outside, or a Congress member has a PAC that wants to give us money, we need that money to win this, but if that money, if they are funded by corporations, guess what? It is the same thing. And so we only will take money from PACs, to answer the question, where the donors are individuals like you. This is not corporate money. This is a grassroots movement. People have asked me, they've said, well, would you reconsider? This is going to be a tough race. We need to get Schweikert out. Will you reconsider? Do you need that money? No. And I will tell you why. Because money does not win elections. Smart strategy wins elections, and how you spend the money you have wins elections. This is not just rhetoric. This is not just what I want to say. This is proof. We've seen it across the country, and we proved it here in District 6. In the primary, we were outspent 4-1. But I knew what we were doing on the ground. We took that momentum, that structure I talked about before, and we were able to hit the ground and talk to people. That's how you win. It's hard work. It's not easy, it's hot outside, but that's how you do this. Even in our general, yes, we didn't win, but again, it was a historic showing. We had no national attention. We had a fraction of the money that you've seen in other districts, but the highest voter total in all congressional districts in Arizona was in District 6. Because we ignited something. We got people to come out. And so now with more time and yes, more money, we can finish this. All that to say is not to tell you don't give money to our campaign. You need money to fuel your message, to run your strategy. But always consider and always remember that what wins is how you spend that money. So our fundraising going well, to answer the question, but it is never going to be my #1 focus. It is not how we'll take this district. This is not a district that we can look at as a Trump numbers district. Schweikert has always outperformed. This is different. The game is different.
So, to unseat Schweikert, it's imperative that we reach every single voter. Because it's not enough just for voters to know that there's another choice on the ballot, but we have to define that choice. They have to know what that person brings to the table, what issues they're fighting for, and we have to be able to draw the contrast. And so far, Schweikert has managed to float fairly under the radar. He's painted himself as this moderate, and people just don't know enough about his horrible voting record. They don't know enough about his campaign finance investigation that involves taxpayer money. They don't know that he is bought and paid for by his corporate overlords. And that is a message that has to get across so voters know when they have a choice on the ballot what that other choice means. Now, raising money is an essential part of a campaign. And we've shown our ability to be strong fundraisers because that's what it takes to get the message out. It's the reality of the situation. But we've done it without taking a dime of corporate PAC money. And we haven't, and we won't. We've been incredibly overwhelmed by the support that we've seen already from grassroots supporters since the day we launched our campaign. It's been amazing, and we are so, so proud and so grateful because all the energy and the momentum of the last cycle has continued, and it has grown deeper and wider. So thank you all for that. But again, we have to do the work to raise the money. That is part of the deal. If I'm going to ask all of you to work very hard on my behalf, I have to be willing to do that as well. And the reality is that it takes a lot of money when you're competing against somebody like David Schweikert, who takes money from corporate PACs, from big dollar donors, from special interest groups, from the Koch brothers. And if we're going to match him and get our message out, it's going to take a lot of resources. And I'm committed to raising the resources that are necessary because that's the only way we win. Look, I would like nothing more than to not have fundraising be part of a campaign. It took a lot of work. Last time we raised $4.5 million, and we made a huge shift in that district. It was the biggest shift in the entire state, and we even outperformed Senator Sinema. But it took a lot of work. And we look forward to the day when we can take money out of this equation, when we don't have to worry about fundraising to run a strong campaign. But that's not our reality right now. working in the reality that we have right now, and I can't change those rules until I get a seat at the table. So the reality is as it is, and we're working within that. And it would be to our detriment to ignore it or to deny it. So I will continue to work hard to make sure we have the resources to get the message out, to make sure I build a strong team, to make sure we connect with every single voter, and we draw the contrast between myself and David Schweikert. That is how we win, and I'm committed to doing everything that it takes to do that.
Thank you. Each of you has a very impressive background, personal story, and experience running a congressional campaign. What distinctions can you draw, and what changes will you make to give you the best chance to defeat David Schweikert?
So in the business world and the tech world, I've spent a lot of years, a lot of time mentoring women particularly, that are really trying to advance and step up that career ladder. Oftentimes, the issue always comes down to they're trying to be something that they're not. And so my advice is always consistent. Stay true to what makes you you, because that's the strength you bring to the table. That's the voice that needs to be at the boardroom. Don't lean in so much that you forget who you are. Because as women, we're taught to lean in, right? But sometimes that's not the right idea. That's not what I want to see in politics. I believe we need our candidates to be so transparent, so true to themselves, that this is not a gamble, this is not a roll of the dice, that when they go to Washington, we don't know what they're going to do. So no, I won't change a whole lot about how I've done this before. I will stay true to me, but I will continue to grow and to listen to the voices of this district. That's what this is about for me. It's not about Democrats versus Republicans, or we just got to get the independents. It's about everybody and their families. And so what we will do is double down on our message. A message of family economics. A message that says we need to stop the bleeding of the family budget. Because we're living in a time where the majority of paychecks can only purchase the same power they purchased 40 years ago. And nobody wants to talk about that, particularly David Schweikert. He will tell you it's all about the GDP and productivity. But I have a lesson for David Schweikert, which is investments give you the return to bring that productivity to the table. Tax cuts, and we've seen his, don't give you that productivity. They take out of our economy. That GDP is not going to grow, and we're in a threat now with the trade war for recession. So my message at this time will be similar to last. It's about smart investments. Smart investments that give us a return. Investments in our education system. Opportunity. Investments in healthcare for everyone. Investments in infrastructure. All of that boosts productivity. Healthy families make healthy workers. There is a connection. And if we can talk about that connection consistently at the doors in our messaging and make people realize this, again, is not about party politics. It's about what's best for your family. Every family in District 6 has a story. And every family in District 6 wants the same thing, which is we want to do better than maybe what our parents did, and we want to do better for our kids to have that opportunity to do better. And if you ask them today, can you see a future where your children will do better? The answer is most likely no. Second question, and I'll leave you with this, is what has David Schweikert done for your family? Heck, what has he done for your neighbors? They will be hard-pressed to know, because he is somebody that will say one thing and vote the other way. How many of you saw the aid package yesterday that the House passed? I mean, finally, after so many roadblocks. I will tell you, the way that the news came to me, I saw the news blurb that they passed this, and I thought, it said 58 Republicans voted against it. It was instantaneous. I looked at my phone, I did this, I had that like feeling of, ugh, I bet you Schweikert voted against it. I bet you today, as they passed the DREAM Act, I bet you Schweikert voted against it. I don't even have to look anymore. We need to talk about that voting record. It is wrong. It is not what people in this district want. It doesn't matter what their party affiliation is. So I will not change my viewpoints. Because they may call me Angry Anita. You guys have seen I get mad about that one. But guess what? Someone needs to be tired and angry. And if we're not, we're never going to get there. Have a bold vision. Embrace that bold vision. That is how you get things done. And that's what I plan to do. Thank you.
Look, I was first compelled to run because I was worried about the folks that didn't have a voice, the families that were struggling all around our state, all around our country. And my biggest concern at the very first moment I decided to run was that 20 million people could potentially lose their health care. That was unconscionable to me. And I made a commitment that I wasn't going to stand by while we went backwards, not just on health care, but on these issues that we live and die by. Education, economic opportunity, climate change, gun violence, all these issues. The risk of going backwards is a risk I'm not willing to take. I have 3 young adult children who are just starting out in their lives. It is incumbent upon me to know that at the end of the day, I have done everything I can to make sure that they have a better chance and a better world to live in than I did. Look, I'm a first-generation immigrant. My family came to this country when I was 3, and you know why they came. It is for that amazing American dream. And that American dream, I had a chance to seize that for myself and work very hard to get it. But for today's children, for the youth, for so many families, that is a false promise. And we can do so much better, and David Schweikert has failed us on so many of these points. Again, I go back to my oath. This is what I talk about at the doors, and this is what I've been committed to doing. My oath was to do no harm and to help others and to put people first. That is what a legislator should be doing. And the contrast couldn't be clearer. Let's talk about the critical issues. Healthcare. He voted to let 20 million people fall off their healthcare. He has not voted to protect pre-existing conditions. He has not voted to negotiate lower drug prices. I have a plan that gets us to quality, affordable healthcare for every single American. And that's an issue that I will fight tooth and nail for, to make sure it is quality and affordable. He has slashed education funding every chance he's had. And we know that education is the great equalizer. We know that every kid deserves that great first shot in life. And that's a communal investment we make in our collective future. We know that he is for an economy that helps the uber rich and the biggest corporations. I'm fighting for an economy that works for middle-class families, for retirees, for young kids coming out of grad school, for our small business owners. What about all of them? They've been left behind, and we can do better for all of them. He has been bought and paid for by the NRA, and he's voted against every common sense gun safety regulation bill that's come up, including the one for comprehensive background checks. I know that gun violence, you all know this, it's a public health crisis. And we have to address it as such. And there are common sense solutions we could put forward to make our community safer. He thinks climate change is folklore. He has said that. We know that the science is real. And we know that we need fact-based solutions to address it. And Arizona should lead the charge in that. It's an economic boon, and it also helps our environment and saves the planet for our children. We know where he stands on immigration. He has stood by and watched President Trump talk about his wall. He has diverted money away from infrastructure and veterans care for that wall. And he has stood by while families had their children torn out of their arms. I came to this country as an immigrant. This country welcomed me with open arms, me and my family. And I know we can do better. We can have comprehensive immigration reform, and we can keep our borders safe. And it is important that we do both, and we do it with dignity, because we have to treat the people outside of our borders with the values we hold dearest within our borders. We know all of these things. We know we can do better, and the biggest thing and the final thing is the corruption. We know we have to take dark money, the influence of money, out of politics. And we have to have accountability from the top all the way down. There's nobody who's above the law. So We know that David Schweikert has been bought and paid for. You can make a direct connection from his voting record to where he gets his money. That is not a public servant. That is somebody who's working for his corporate overlords and his special interest donors. So we have to remember what we stand for, and we are on the right side of these issues. Don't ever forget that. So I will fight tooth and nail on these issues, and we know that with our collective energy, with our strong grassroots momentum, and with the history of what we've been able to do in the last cycle, we were able to move a profoundly, deeply red district. It was the biggest shift in the state. We outperformed cinema, and we helped statewide races come to victory. It took everything we had, and I'm so proud of the progress we made. This is our chance to close the deal, to get a seat at the table, and make sure we bring real change, not just for CD6, not just for Arizona, but for our whole country. Thank you.
Well, let's just be open and honest here. We all know that David is not offensive to a lot of people in our community, and that a lot of people are not offended by what he does, and that is something we have to tackle. That is the mountain we're climbing. In 2018, we learned that you can't beat David on a wave, even when he spent less money than any other incumbent Republican in Congress. So we know that he can be lazy, not spend money, not represent the voters, but he doesn't seem to offend our community enough for people to vote him out of office. So the biggest distinction we can make here is to look at which candidate actually fits the mold, the demographic, and the distinction of the district. Which candidate fits that gap that needs to be filled? Because what David's doing is his own demise. In a district like ours, what we're doing right now is we're looking to capitalize on that. He's got an ethics investigation, he's underwater financially. A lot of people that we know who have supported him in the past are withdrawing their financial support. He spent $500,000 on legal bills. But even at all that, he has not offended the people here in CD6 enough that they are going to vote against him because they think he's a horrible man. He grew up in Paradise Valley. His parents and other people's parents that still live here in the community, Democrats included, have all known each other for decades. So what we need is a candidate like me. I am the best Democrat for you to invest your time and energy in for this district. For more than 30 years, Rimmer Lighting, our family business, has engaged in trade and exported American manufactured lighting products to Mexico. I'm the only candidate that's actually on the ground in the industry and harmed the most by what's going on in Arizona with these tariffs. And every day, more and more, I find myself in talks with business leaders who want to solve the problem, and they know that David is weak and that he can't stand up for our community. So they're calling me because we need somebody to be tackling what's going on, to be pushing the chamber, as a voice in some of the organizations that I'm a part of, like the Arizona-Mexico Commission. It is the candidate that can beat David is the candidate that we need to invest in. My work in the cities of Phoenix and Scottsdale, Maricopa County, the state of Arizona, the state trust land, the governor's office, numerous boards and commissions, more than I can even think to name, and on initiatives that have kept our communities clean, safe, protected our environment, managed our water runoff. We actually have a $20 million dam going in right now that I instigated so that we could get that biotech corridor that now Congressman Greg Stanton, when he was mayor of Phoenix, always wanted to make happen. We're bringing jobs to the Northeast Valley, and we're investing in our community. We even brought ASU up here to build a campus next to Mayo. These are all things that are great for our community. David's been absent from all of it. He's never there at the table, doesn't help. But I can do the work of our congressman without being in Congress. But if we want to win this race, then we need somebody who can do that work to be the candidate that runs against him. I am here to protect our collective interest and investment that we all made many, many years ago to live, work, do business, and raise our families right here in the Northeast Valley. And I am the best candidate to take on David Schweikert.
Thank you very much. This was very interesting, enlightening, and I really appreciate all three of you taking the time to tell us a little bit about yourselves and about your views. I'd also like to thank everyone for taking their time to educate yourself politically and to work to educate others. And I feel heartened looking out at the talented and dedicated candidates and everyone else who are here to volunteer and to help and to work with us. Thank you all very much.